Do the rich and privileged deserve sympathy from us normal people? I've been thinking about this the past few days because I've been caught up in the mainstream media hype of the royal family situation and Meghan Markle and Prince Harry kind of leaving the royal status and being interviewed by Oprah. And I've heard the online chatter and I couldn't help but get pulled into it. A lot of people were making kind of fun of them and their situation because from their perspective, they're making memes of all types saying, like, look, you guys are multi-millionaire royals and you're being interviewed by Oprah on your $15 million property. Oh, woe is me, the stresses of life. It's like, give me a break, right? Without thinking, on one side of me, it's like, I completely agree with that. You're privileged and you're complaining, like, your worst day is my best day. Like, come on. But then I thought about it more. Well, if you're living an exceedingly great life, you should be able to read the room, the societal room, and realize, as bad as I might be feeling right now, I recognize my privilege, I recognize my circumstance, and I shouldn't be voicing these things out to the average person who can never relate and has no reason to sympathize with me. On the other hand, doesn't everyone deserve to have their feelings and mental health and their circumstances at least acknowledged? Should we dismiss people's hardships, regardless of what level it is in their life, just because of their privilege? I thought about this because there's a lot of different sub-communities within our society, whether it's people that are really rich or they have certain interests or they have certain commonalities. And when something's going wrong with them, they usually within their community gather and can express themselves freely and be able to receive sympathy from people that relate to them. But when you're a royal, when you're a multimillionaire and you have a life circumstance that no one, like literally no one can relate to, what community do you have to go and speak with it? You don't really have one. And if you don't speak freely out into the public, even though talking to Oprah in of itself is super privileged, but if you don't have an open forum to be able to express that and get feedback, your only option is to suppress it. And what happens when you suppress stressful situations? It doesn't make things any better. So I just found myself thinking about this because, if you're really rich and you're really privileged, some average person like me, some Joe Schmo, I look at you and it's like, yeah, I can't really relate. Yeah, you might be having some stressful situations, you might be having a tough time, but at the end of the day, you have no fundamental needs in your life. There's a hierarchy of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and at the bottom you have your food and your shelter and your basic needs. And as you go up, you get up to self-actualization, and it's basically a period, a space in life where you have freedom and peace from human needs because they're all taken care of. And at what point, if people that are super rich and privileged shouldn't be maybe seen as so foolish to try to express their shortcomings in their days and in their life with people that are struggling day to day just to survive and maintain livelihood, at what point along that Maslow's hierarchy of needs where someone might be at what point should they just keep their mouth closed and just accept their privilege and leave it at that? And if there's a point where you're so privileged that you shouldn't feel the need to express it to people or to get feedback from people, try to reach out for help, what does that say for people like me, who's just your average person? I make an average income for living in North America. Because I have a life that's more privileged than most of the world, if we're being honest. It only takes maybe $45,000 a year salary to be more privileged than most of the world. Should people in that situation not express their concerns and their stress and their mental anguish with whatever situation in life that they come across just because they're more privileged than other people? I think everyone's life is so different and life is so complicated, it's so complex. Man does not live by food alone. It's not enough just to have a lot of money. It's not enough just to live in a big house and have a nice car. There's so many things that contribute to a healthy life than just those things. Someone made a comment in one of these memes, and they said, Prince Harry, when he was growing up, his mom, Princess Diana, died. Is he still considered to be in a privileged situation versus someone that is a middle income family and has both their parents and hasn't experienced a close death in their family? Who's really the privileged one? Does just money and circumstance make you privileged? I don't know. I totally get why people see the interview with Oprah and want to give them the big whoop-de-doo, but I try to distance myself from my initial reaction and ask myself, what if I was someone that was a multimillionaire and I was stressed out but I had no one to relate to? Is it wrong of me to voice my situation out publicly? I probably wouldn't, but if someone does, I can't really knock them for that. Think about this. we're all slaves to hedonic adaptation. I've talked about this in previous videos, where there's a baseline happiness, we'll call it, that we all have. And when really good things happen in life, we get happy temporarily, even more happier. We get that release of serotonin, we're feeling good, and then over time we come back down to baseline. And when something bad happens in our life, we get like that chemical release in our mind, we feel bad and we get low, and then over time we come back to baseline. If the hedonic adaptation, that hedonic treadmill, applies to like happiness for us common people, us common folk, doesn't that happen with people that are exceedingly wealthy and privileged as well? They have a baseline, and when things go bad, they still experience mental stress. They have that release of cortisol that occurs when we're stressed out, and we get that fight or flight reaction where we're just going through mental anguish. So we all experience it the same. I don't know if it's right or healthy to compare struggles, to compare stressful circumstances between different classes of people. I think it's damaging. Speaking for myself, as much as I want to develop in a career and make more money, my real number one priority is my own happiness. I'd rather make $60,000 a year and be happy as a middle class Joe Schmo than to be a multimillionaire that's chronically unhappy. Privilege can't be defined just by how much money you have, I think. I think it's important to understand all the different factors and variables that lead into happiness. And so when it comes to this question, do the rich and privileged deserve sympathy? I think they do. They do, just because being rich and privileged in of itself doesn't lead to happiness. As much as we like to make fun of rich people that are complaining because it seems like they're not taking into account their privilege, I think we got to realize that when you've been living with that privilege for so long, you don't recognize it for what it is. There's enough people that had celebrity status that are no longer around today because of their actions they've taken on themselves, the Robin Williams of the world, where it's like, yeah, money, privilege, that stuff isn't enough. It isn't enough, and I think it's only once the extreme situations like that happen that we take it seriously. And so I'd love to hear your opinion on this. Do you think the rich and privileged deserve sympathy? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. I'd love to have a conversation on this further. Thanks for watching.